Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 50 Shades of Tay. I'm Taylor Gonzalez, and my guest today is a New York Times best-selling author. He has written for Star Wars, Star Trek, Transformers, Doctor Who, the list goes on and on. Kevin Scott, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay, but it always makes me tired when people start reading my credits to me. Like, it's
Isn't it
been a
crazy to
long life.
think?
No, it's been
I
good.
can't believe all the different, like IPs you've gotten to work with. And it's just so cool because I feel like my channel, we focus on a lot of movies and television and streamings, and you cover a lot of different fandoms.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I've said that I want to keep my to-do list the same today as it was when I was 10. And I'm managing it quite well. But yeah, I mean, it's these things have always been a big part of me growing up, the things I've enjoyed, the fandoms I've belonged to. And yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for like 25 years now. So, there's been a lot of time working on these properties. And I've been very fortunate that there's some of the things that I grew up loving and still love to this day.
Oh, very cool. Is there a property out there that you have not written for yet that you are very interested in writing for?
Well, I have sort of I wrote a real Ghostbusters comic for the 35th anniversary, a one shot. And Ghostbusters is still it's still my favorite movie of all time. It's my comfort movie, I probably would say. It's the one I reach for when I need to curl up under a Stay Puft duvet. And so I'd love to do more in that universe. There's so much I think that you could do
Oh,
within Ghostbusters. So so yeah, I mean, so I've been very fortunate to work on a lot of the properties I love, and I try to keep some of them just to things I watch or read, or I mean, I love James Bond, and I haven't ever worked on James Bond. Now, if they came knocking at my door and saying, "Will you write the next James Bond movie?" I'm not going to say no, but at the same time, it's good to have certain things that you can just sit back and enjoy as a fan.
yeah.
It does mean that your life. I mean, there's that thing about work on your hobbies and you'll never work a day in your life. The other side of that is you'll never stop working. So no matter what you're watching, no matter what you're reading, no matter what you're doing, you're always going, oh right, I see what they're doing, and oh, I could do that, and oh, that affects what I'm doing at the minute over there. So yeah, it does make it a little bit hard to switch off, but again, these are good problems to have. I'm not
Yeah.
complaining. It's all just part of the gig, really.
Very true. So my introduction to you was through the High Republic. And
Hmm.
back in 2018, which I can't believe how much time has already passed since
I
this
know.
first launched. But back in 2018, you were one of the five authors at the
Hmm.
time, because now it's expanded, to create the High Republic for Star Wars. And I was just wondering, how did that come about for you? How did you get to be selected to be one of the five authors?
So it was, I'd been working for Lucasfilm for Star Wars for a couple of years by that point, writing mainly children's fiction and comics. Um, Although no, actually, I think no, by that point I hadn't even started on the audios. And yeah, Mike Seglain cornered me for breakfast at San Diego Comic Con, and I went armed with all these pictures of things I wanted to do. And he had this bombshell waiting for me, and he asked if I'd be interested. Said it would be a big commitment, and it has been a big commitment. So, said it would be something that will go on for years, and indeed it has been gone on for years. Um, but would I be interested? In fact, one of the words he said was that we're rebooting the EU, and my sort of like legend loving head just went when what he meant was that they were expanding finally to write sort of new canon expanded universe material, which they hadn't really done up to that point because they were tying very much into the films and the TV shows. Um, and knowing that my love of legends or the EU, I was at the top of his list, along with four other people, which was amazing. Didn't know who the other people were. I didn't know when I said yes. I had to say yes before that, which was terrifying. Didn't even actually really know until about 2 weeks before I flew out to Skywalker Ranch for the first time. No idea who I was going to be sitting in that room with me. Fortunately, when I got the list through, I was like, oh, these are all people I know. These people I think I can work with. It's going to be great. But yeah, it was a bit of a whirlwind. I think that was sort of like June. And by September, I'd agreed the contract had been signed, and I was sitting in Skywalker Ranch of all places.
Oh my gosh, that is such a cool story, and it's been such a fun ride. I have one of her books right here.
Ah, yeah.
I've just loved getting to meet all these characters and see all these new planets and everything. What do you remember back from the very first meeting when all of the authors got together and met for the first time? Is there anything that stands out to you specifically from your first like group meeting?
Well, I mean, it was overwhelming in so many ways because of where we were. I think that was the biggest thing. I've never felt more like someone's made a terrible mistake and they invited the wrong person because you're in this most a place you've read about from the pages of Starlog or whatever for years. This place that seems legendary, and you're literally standing here looking at a fire engine with Skywalker Ranch written on the side of it. And we got together and we were taken out there. We had one night there. Got up in the morning. We're given a folder which had a letter from Kathy Kennedy at the front, and the sort of like the outline for the next few days of what we would be expected to do. Um, and we sort of walked through past magnificent Lake Ewok and by the big house to the place we were working at. Um, and all the time I was just going, this is bananas. This is not, how did I get here? And I just remember sitting around the table and we had all the editorial staff there. We had all of Story Group there. Um, and they gave us a sort of rundown of what was happening in the wider universe at the time, because this is obviously pre episode 9, this is pre Mandalorian. So they gave us a little taster of what we could expect from both of those. Um, and then we just started talking about Star Wars in general and just general ideas, because there wasn't we didn't go in knowing we were doing the High Republic. We had to come up with whatever it was. We knew we had to come up with an era. We knew we had to come up with an area that could support multiple storytelling lines within it. There had to be adult fiction, there had to be kids fiction, there had to be comics. Definitely at that moment, there was ambition to move into different areas, but this was definitely where it was starting from. Um, and yeah, I just remember being just sitting there and looking around. We were on this big long table and just looking at everyone there and like looking at the other writers. And Charles was drawing diagrams in his notebook because he's very visual in the way he draws it. Justina was typing away, and it was just like I was just I kept telling myself I've got to keep up here, I've got to keep up, and it was a complete sense of overwhelm. Um, but then you get wrapped up in it, you get wrapped up in it, and we all had to come out of our own ideas and pitch them to the group and see what the response was, and then go away after the week and write them up as a full pitch for what would become the High Republic. So yeah, it was looking back, it was a real pinch me moment. Because I couldn't quite, I don't think I'd really grasped how big an opportunity it was still by that point. And I had no idea how big it would go and how much it would change my life. So it was, yeah, it's a very odd moment when I look back at it. And there's little moments like Pablo sending a message to my kids because they used to watch him on Rebels Recall and things like that. So it was just all these little things. It was surreal. It was just a surreal, wonderful time.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible. And what's really fun about the High Republic too is going to conventions ever since it's
Mm.
launched. And like at San Diego Comic-Con, seeing all the cosplayers and the High Republic outfits and the costumes. And it's just so crazy to see like this whole life that it's taken on ever since it first was announced back in 2018.
Yeah, I mean, I look back at that first celebration we did because obviously we launched it in the middle of lockdown. The first celebration we had at Anaheim, we had no idea if anyone was going to turn up to talk about these books. There'd been a response online, both good and bad, and you just go, well, what's it going to be like in person? And almost immediately, on the first day I walked into the hall, and it was, I mean, again, talk about overwhelm. It's the first thing I'd been to out of lockdown. So not only was it, I was coming over to the States for the first time after, being locked down over here in the UK. I was at Star Wars Celebration with everything that entails. I hadn't seen that many people for a long time, and we're all masked up. And then immediately someone came up and said, "Are you Cavan Scott?" And it was like, "No, what? Yep, maybe." Who was asking? And more and more people kept coming up, and then we did the panel and we thought they put us in the wrong room. It was the second biggest room at Celebration, and it was filled. 4,000 people turned up to listen about books and comics, which is amazing, incredible. And the passion and the love that came off of them was just such a great shot in the arm. And we because we had no idea how this was going to go down. And then every time we've done conventions, it's increased. You know, we the second one over in London since we came back, um, we had the cosplay event, which we had a little one in Anaheim, which we all thought was a terrible idea because no one was going to turn up in a costume. But we had people in costume, and there was someone in full skier latex
Oh,
armor and
wow.
stuff. And that blew our minds. And then the next year we're in London, so I'm obviously on my home turf. I We go outside to where we think the High Republic meet's going to be, and there's a couple of people in costume, and we say, "Oh, that's cool," and we go over to them, and they went, "No, no, no, we're not the meet. We're just having a cigarette. The meet's over there." And we turned around, and there was just hundreds of people in High Republic.
Wow.
Um, and there's video footage of that meet, and we're all a little bit giddy because I think we were just so blown away. I mean, that people giving us gifts. I mean, there's a guy who makes lightsabers. We've got a few, we've got Cavan skiers there, 3D prints them, and he was giving them to us. And it was just, again, I am always blown away by the creativity of the
Mm,
fans, and the amount of time. I mean, yeah, I write, I do a little bit of drawing. I'm not creative beyond that, the other than making Lego, but that's just following instructions. But these people spend so much time with these characters, recreating artwork into costume,
mm.
and those costumes are intense. You know, they're when we designed the High Republic Jedi robes, we didn't really think of the poor cosplayers. You know, we just want to look spectacular. And also they're very heavy and they're very hot. And yeah, I'm always amazed when I see the amount of work, and it's humbling, you know, that someone spent that much time with a character you've created or you've been at a part and created, um, and has brought it to life. So yeah, those moments, I think when I look back, I think those moments are going to be the ones that are going to stay with me above everything else because they are unbelievable that it
Mm.
would happen.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. Are you going to the next Star Wars celebration in Japan?
I'm not at the minute.
No.
There's no plan at the minute. I would love to. It's been a long time since I've been to Tokyo, but not for the next one. It'd be weird because that is also around the time that the sort of the original three phases, the plan for High Republic is coming to an end. It will be around that time. And I've just literally submitted my final High Republic thing, which again is um it's a weird emotion because I got very emotional writing it, which I didn't think I would so much.
Mm.
Um, and there's also there's a mix of the excitement of people finally get to see it, a relief that it's over, and I mean that in the best possible sense because it's been a mammoth storytelling thing, and we're reaching the end now, so it's like we've done it, and that's great. But there's obviously excitement about what I'm going to do next, and all those kind of things, but also, it's been such a huge part of my life
Yeah.
since 2018. I mean, it literally got me through the pandemic. There wasn't a day went by when I wasn't talking to the other architects and the other
Mm.
members of the team. Um, so yeah, it's going to be very odd because I still have moments to work on it. I mean, I've written the last comics, but obviously we've still got to release the comics. There's
Mm.
still, we're still. I think Marika's on issue 3 now, so it's like we're there's lettering passes to do and all the different stages of writing a comic book. So it's actually going to be part of my life for many, many, many more months.
Right.
But it's knowing that that main thrust of it has gone. But
Mm.
then next month we launch Tempest Breaker, which is the next audio. So again, it all starts again. So it's going to be a long time before before I've finished. But at the same time, we don't have as many meetings as we used to because other members of the team have literally done. So
Yeah.
it's that weird breakup of the group now as well as people start going off and doing other things. And
Wow.
so yeah, it's a really weird emotional time at the minute.
Yeah. No, I can't even begin to understand that, but I do understand what you're saying, but I just can't like wrap my head around working so long on something and then like you said everyone goes off to their own projects, but the nice thing is even if the work is done, like you're done writing, the legacy of what you guys created, the characters, the storytelling will live on forever with all the fans and people passing these books down to their kids and stuff like that. So the work might be done, but the legacy will live on, which is very nice.
Yeah, it is, and that's the humbling part of it. That I grew up in the early days of what became the UU with the Marvel comic, and then obviously the when everything was rebooted with Dark Empire was the first thing I saw. Going into the news agent, oh no, the comic shop, and seeing Dark Empire on the on the newsstand, and seeing Luke on the cover, and just going, "Oh my God, Star Wars!" Because obviously the Marvel comic had finished a long time ago. Ewoks had finished, droids had finished. I thought that's it, Star Wars is done. And suddenly there was new Star Wars, and then I think it must have been a day later I saw um, Timothy Dawn's first novel there as well. So it was such a big part of my, of like my teenage years and beyond. So to contribute anything to that is phenomenal because, as I've always said, for me, I've been standing on the shoulders of those giants because they're the ones who broke the new ground, and from the original Marvel run, from the, when they had no idea what Star Wars was beyond Star Wars, they had no idea really what was coming in Empire, but they just carried on anyways, as you do when you're writing these things. To, yeah, Tim and that entire era when they were starting to put out the new comics and the new books in the 90s and what that became, um, we couldn't have done any of this without that. And without, the passion and the talent of those people. And the fans for embracing it because like the other main franchise I think I've done most work with, Doctor Who, both Star Wars and Doctor Who have had eras when there hasn't been TV or films or whatever, and it's books and comics and audio dramas and all the things that go with it, and fans that have kept it alive, and got angry when things go wrong, and got excited the next day and do everything that fans do. And it's, yeah, so to be part of that, and again being part of that period where we were starting to break out of just tying into movies, which I'd done a lot of up to that point. That was very exciting. And yeah, as you say, these books aren't going anywhere. It's most day, every few days I get someone saying I've just picked up the first Marvel comic. I've just picked up Rising Storm. I've just, it's like it's constantly going back and people are rediscovering it, and starting again, or saying to me, I can't keep up. And I was like, it's fine. You can read it this at your own pace. There's,
Mhm.
these books aren't, again, look at every Legend book that's still in print. These books are going to be here for a long, long time. And there'll be people in the future who will build on top of them. And I think that's the most exciting thing
Mhm.
is that you put these breadcrumbs and everything, and then someone else will pick it up. Just as I picked up stuff that perhaps was, from the late 90s or whatever. It's Star Wars is constantly evolving, it's constantly changing, it's constantly growing. And so just to be a small part of that is incredible.
Well, speaking of the High Republic, you also did write some episodes of The Young Jedi Adventures, which is
Hmm.
streaming on Disney Plus. And I
Yes,
loved your Harvest Festival episode because it's perfect to watch right now for
it
Thanksgiving
is.
time. I was wondering, is that something you're interested in doing more of, writing more for like television and for streaming?
Yeah, it's definitely, and it's something I'm actively doing at the minute. So it's when I first started, I started writing radio drama around sort of the year 2000. I was a journalist before then, but I wanted to get into drama, and so I wrote radio drama primarily for Doctor Who. And my plan was always that I would move into TV and film. And I am, but it's just taken me 20 years to get there because what happened was Doctor Who came back and they needed people who could write all these things and had knowledge of publishing and knew Doctor Who, and so I ended up getting sort of pulled into all these other things. And when I say pulled, it wasn't like I was kicking and screaming.
Mhm.
So I ended up writing children's books and comics and all these things that I love and things I wanted to do. But the sort of the goal of TV and film and animation sort of got pushed to the side a bit, and I sort of managed to steer the ship around. No, I had no idea this was going to be the route I was going to take, and largely it was Star Wars that managed to help me steer towards it again. But yeah, it's something I'm actively working on at the minute. And hopefully there will be things that will be seen in, I mean, again, TV and screen takes so long. So there's stuff I'm working on now that won't be around for years. But
Yeah.
it's all exciting. So it's storytelling, stories are stories. It's the exciting bit is the different mediums you tell them through. So
Mhm.
it's using different muscles, it's that's why I'm feel very privileged that I'm able to write books and comics and audio and TV, because you get to look at story through a different prism when you write for the different media. So yeah, it's definitely something I hope there will be more of. Well, I know there's going to be more of, but I hope it's definitely going to be something I'm going to build on as the years come.
Oh, I can't wait to see what you work on next because I love that. What is it? The Great
The
Gord
Great
Quest.
Gomgord
It's hard for
quest.
me to say Gom Gord.
It is a really hard word. I mean, so in when you work, so I wasn't part of the writers' room. They sort of invited me in to do episodes, which was wonderful. And but you do have a sort of like a meeting with the writers' room, and I think we counted. We'd said it, Gumboard something like 78 times, and it was just we're just trying to get it into conversations by the end. So yeah, so it was a follow up to an episode in the first series when they first introduced this sort of harvest time, Thanksgiving type meal that they have on a planet during the High Republic. Yeah, I mean, writing for Young Jedi Adventures has been a blast because it is again, it's something very different. It's preschool. It's something I didn't really think I'd do. It has its own challenges, what you can and can't do, the level of peril you can have for the characters.
Right.
But though it's such a warm show to be involved in, it was the opportunity and also in the first one I did the opportunity to bring to life some of the characters from from the books as
Mhm.
well, and sort of seeing in other episodes, Starlight Beacon appearing and Maru appearing, and all it's been great to sort of see the way the High Republic has sort of not leached sounds horrible leached into the Young Jedi. It's influenced the Young Jedi Adventures and vice versa because there'll be stuff that you'll see going the other way as well. So yeah, it's again it's a bonus that I didn't expect to be there when I first sat there in Skywalker Ranch, but
Oh.
it was great fun. I didn't even realize it was on Outlow because I was there going, so I knew it was the Thanksgiving episode, so I thought it was could be coming out. So I knew there'd been some episodes, but I hadn't checked. It was awful. I was in the middle of doing a load of High Republic stuff, and so I was always like, I'll catch up and I'll binge the series, the ones I've missed later. And then someone said to me, your episode's been out since August, is it?
Mm.
Has it? So I'm suddenly doing promotion. But it feels like it's the right time to do promotion for it now
Mhm.
because it's a Thanksgiving episode. It's a holiday episode.
Yeah, it's a perfect episode to watch for this time of the year.
Exactly. Exactly.
And now to switch gears completely, something we both have in common is our love of horror.
Hmm.
And I know you've done comics in the horror genres, such as like Vader's Castle and
Yeah.
Tales from the Rancor Pit. Uh, is that something you would be interested in writing more of, some more horror and Star Wars comics or novels or even episodes of a series?
All I'm going to say is watch this space for that. I mean, yeah, as you're right, I've been writing Vader's Castle and its various spin-offs again since 2018 now, which is crazy. We've just had a big omnibus of the Vader series, yeah, again, it that's the best of both worlds. I get to tell creepy treehouse of horror type stories within the Star Wars universe, but away from Star Wars. Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of series out now, Night of the Slashers and Godfather of Hell, which are very definitely adult and very definitely horror, different forms of horror. Godfather of Hell is a sort of cool mafia meets Lucifer mashup, whereas Night of the Slashers is exactly what it says on the tin. It's just murder, and knives and monsters and teenagers screaming. And for me, it's a real sort of like love letter to a genre I loved as a nervous teen watching these films and being terrified by Freddy Krueger. So yeah, I mean, I always class myself as, but in my heart and soul, I'm a horror writer who's ended up writing all these other things. And I think if you look at some of the things I've done for the High Republic, you can probably see the influence. I mean, I was the one who suggested the Nameless, the Drengir, so yeah, those the monsters um in the High Republic now, the great thing about the High Republic is we've all added our own elements to everything anyone suggested, and we pulled things apart, pushed them to back together, and um, but yeah, I was definitely the one going monsters. I mean, again, one of my other main characters is a monster hunter. There's a definite thread there. So yeah, so I think people are surprised sometimes when they look at my sort of original content and realize it's so horror orientated. But actually, if you think about it and you read what I've done in Star Wars and whatever, it shouldn't be that much of a surprise.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I love horror, and I was so excited when I saw that you and Paul Fry collaborated together
Hmm.
on Night of the Slashers. I was wondering, who are some of your favorite? I know you just mentioned Freddy Krueger, but who are some of your favorite slashers?
I think Freddy is always up there. I mean, Freddy's an odd one because he's not typically a slasher. I mean, he's definitely supernatural. Most slashers, when you think about it, you are looking at, a knife and a mask.
Hmm.
And Freddy is everything. He has knives. Boy, does he have knives. But he hasn't a mask. He is He isn't monosyllabic, and so there is a lot of Freddie in what I've done in Night of the Slashers because it was so influential for me at the time. But recently, the great thing is my youngest daughter, 16 now, has discovered a love of slasher movies.
Oh.
So she's not very good on supernatural horror because she starts to believe that's real, whereas
Mm.
slashers she can't believe is real. I think sometimes I worry about this, but so we've just gone through Halloween. We've done the entire Scream run. We've done
Mm.
what we do. I know what you did last summer. So it's great to be able to see it through her eyes. And things like more monster like Freaky, the sort of
Oh yeah.
body swap Vince Vaughn film, which was so good,
Mm.
such a good film. Um, I do like the movies that know the tropes and work them really well and give you something fresh, which is hopefully what we've also done with Night of the Slashers as well. So it's such an amalgam of all those different I mean again what is do the Jeepers Creepers movies, I mean that's a monster definitely, but it's sort of within the
Right.
realms of slasher. Pinhead definitely
Mm.
slashes. So I think it's those sort of iconic monsters, um, and iconic horror, well, literally horror icons. I mean, again, recently I introduced George Mann, a friend of mine, for people might know for the High Republic, to Trick or Treat for Halloween,
Oh
which
yeah.
I loved, which I love that tone of that film, and I have a little Sam on my shelf there. So again, it's like I'm always looking for that next. I haven't tried the Terrifier yet,
Ooh,
and I've
okay.
heard things.
Mm.
I've heard lots of things, but I think once I break more for the end of the year, I'm planning to binge all three of those. So yeah,
Oh, that's
I
gonna be a
know.
tough binge.
Happy Christmas.
Yeah.
But that's what it's work. I know the third one's a holiday film, so I'm working towards it.
Yeah.
It'll be nice around the tree.
Yeah. The third one is my favorite, but I will
Right.
say if you watch all three in a row, it's tough because it's a lot of stuff that's like hard to look at. You know what I mean? But it's
Yeah, yeah.
fun.
Well, I'm not great on what people, at one point called torture porn. I'm not great on those kind of, just for the sake of it. I mean, I love the original Saw movie as a
Mm.
concept, as a story. And as they go on and on, I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it. People are being diced, sliced and diced. So I do need, I don't usually just want gore for gore's sake, but I'm also quite good at it, so I can take it. But I've been bracing myself because of what people told me about those movies.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
lots of them.
I think you'll enjoy them though. I think you'll have
Mm.
fun.
Mm.
So my
That's
last
something weird
question,
fun.
yeah, weird fun.
Yeah.
My last question is my favorite question to ask my guests, and it's, do you have a favorite Halloween costume that you've ever dressed up as?
Oh, see, well, I'm British. We don't really do it. I mean,
Hmm.
it's a really odd thing. So I love Halloween in the sense of like it gives you a chance to talk about this stuff, but it's only in the last few years that really Halloween as the American celebration of Halloween, has really come together. So I've never actually dressed up for
Oh
Halloween
no. Okay,
other
okay.
than t-shirt, a multitude of famous monster t-shirts and things. So, um, and so yeah, it's something that's completely passed me by, and so I'm trying to think now, who or what I'd like to. I think I want to go to the classics. I think I if I'm going to do it, and I'm going to have my first Halloween costume, it's going to have to be a Frankenstein of some sort.
Ooh,
Okay,
okay. That'd be
just
awesome.
because the monster is still in all his guises my sort of like monster of choice. So, um, I think. I'm sure at some point I will take the plunge. But yeah, the Halloween thing is a really odd thing because especially as I've been so involved in Halloween, when I was a kid, it was literally you were lucky if you got a horror movie on on Halloween. And we didn't really go trick or treating, just wasn't a thing. So it's gradually become more and more like the celebrations in the States, which I love. But and I've never experienced the proper American Halloween. Perhaps that's what I've got to do. Perhaps I've got to come over to the States
Yeah.
for Halloween night.
Oh, that'd be very fun. And yeah, you could wear your Frankenstein costume. That'd be
Yeah.
perfect.
I don't know what kind of what monster I would want to be. I mean, obviously you want to go with Karloff, but I think I'll probably end up look more like Herman Munster. But I think um, I'd like to go Shelley and go like proper like long dark hair and you
Mm.
know, I mean, I'm not 8 foot tall, but I could try.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd like to go classics. And also, if you go the classic Shelley Frankenstein's monster, you can just moan all the time because that's what he does. He just whinges all the time about how terrible life is. So it could be a good night for me, but for no one else.
Yeah, very true. But that'd be fun. That'd be such a fun thing to just do all night and not have to not deal with anybody.
No, it's good. Well, if you want to play the part, he's also a vegetarian as well, so I wouldn't be able to. Yeah, I could work. I think I want to go method. Other
Mm.
than strangling people and the like. I thought I'll probably leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to draw the
Yeah,
line.
stop.
Oh my gosh. Well, Cavan Scott, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to join me, and I cannot wait to see what you're working on and what projects you have coming next. But for everyone
Thank
who
you.
wants to follow you and keep up with all your upcoming releases, where's a good place to follow you?
Probably the best place is my newsletter, which I send out pretty much once a week. I'm a bit behind on this week's, but that's because life's been busy. But it's Cavletter, which is cavletter.com. If you go there, sign up, it's all the news, it's all things I'm reading, recommendations, and also linking through to all my socials, which these days we have to have so many socials.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely cavletter.com is probably the best place to go.
Perfect. I'll put a link in the description of this video so people can
Thank
come
you.
and follow and check it out. And thank you again so much for doing this. It was an honor to
No
talk
problem.
with you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.